this is Allison Gilliard with Run Your Story, where every story needs to be heard. And you guys are in for such a treat because this is the Run Your Story of Jessica Jones. She is incredible. If the name sounds familiar or if you've never heard of her, you're about to be wowed by her because she has ran 7 marathons in 7 days in 7 continents. She's also an ultramarathoner. She is just incredible. And what a sweet spirit, and she just loves running, and she loves the community, and she's my new best friend. That's what I'm saying. Sorry, Jessica, my new best friend. Absolutely love you. Just incredible athlete, incredible spirit, and she's got big goals. She's got a big race coming up, and so really rooting for you, Jessica, and all that you're gonna do. Man, I believe in you and anything that you can do. I just am in awe. Guys, this podcast this month is made possible by Rooted and Grounded Coffee Shop. Yay! Because if you know me, you know I love me some coffee and I love some Rooted and Grounded. Literally the best cinnamon rolls you'll ever have. And if you go in there and you say, I want a cinnamon roll and a dirty chai latte, you're having my favorite thing. Right there, makes the day so much better. Guys, Rooted and Grounded is a not-for-profit coffee house. They believe that coffee brings people together and unites us as one body. Guys, the staff is amazing. They're so encouraging, and if you're having a bad day, go in there, you're gonna leave feeling better 100 times because they believe in you, they believe in making the world a better place and helping people and prayer and just all the sweet things. It's the perfect place to study. It's the perfect place to just go and be and just sit. It's the perfect place to have conversation with friends. It really is one of my favorite places, and I absolutely love it there. And Caroline and the staff, phenomenal job of bringing such an extraordinary coffee shop. Guys, go check them out. They are at 2754 Dolphin Street. You will not be disappointed. So Rooted and Grounded, thank you so much for supporting us this month, and believe in you guys and what you're doing, making Mobile better. So just really appreciate you guys. So guys, you may want to lace up some shoes and get ready to be inspired by Jessica Jones and her Run Your Story. Yay, thank you, Jessica, for being here.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
Such a fan. Huge honor. I social media stalk you, both your pages, actually. And anytime you give a shout out to me, I'm like, oh my, I've hit it. I hit it. That's how I feel. Oh, because you've ran literally all over the world.
Yep.
Literally.
Yep.
And you're coming back off just doing a 100-miler in Key West.
Yep.
So what is your run story, my friends?
I think it's a long story, but we'll do part of the short version. So I started actually running in middle school.
Okay.
Joined the cross country team because it was either that or band, and I have no rhythm, so it was an easy choice.
Okay.
I had no idea what I was getting into, but turned out that I was pretty good at it and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I ran through middle school, high school, and into college.
Wow.
And in college, I decided that I could another diversion of life choices, I figured out I could either be an okay Division 1 or Division 2 collegiate runner, or I could be a college student and have fun and do the college things.
Gotcha. Okay.
I took a break from running my last year of college and focused on having a little fun, not gonna lie. But then I didn't run for a long time afterwards.
Really?
And once you get a certain age, you start looking for things to just get back into shape and fitness, whatever. And tried a few things, but eventually came back to running and did that like off and on a little bit. And I always say I got serious about it again somewhere around 2011, 2012.
Okay.
And that's when I started training for my first marathon, and I got injured and then gave up on running again for a little bit because no one could figure out what was wrong with me.
Okay.
So I went to specialists and whatever, and they couldn't figure it out. But finally figured out what was wrong, got it fixed, and got back serious and decided to go after marathons again, and then I guess I never looked back after that.
Wow. Where did you go to college?
Troy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so you ran at Troy.
Yeah. Well,
middle of nowhere.
Yeah, back then it was Troy State.
Okay.
That's, how old I am. And it was before...
Stop it.
It was before they became Division One. We were still D2 when
but you were still in Troy.
Yeah.
Running.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. It's a gorgeous campus. It's just in the middle of nowhere.
It is, but I grew up in the middle of nowhere. I grew up in cornfields in Indiana, so that was, it didn't feel too middle of nowhere. It felt similar, middle of nowhere.
Okay. I'm going to have to trust you on that one. So let's go into what made you decide to run the 7 continents in 7 days, 7 marathons. Because that just sounds, wow, I don't even have the word for that. Like,
crazy?
Yeah, that's, just, I mean, because you're literally going from tropical rainforest to Antarctica.
Yeah.
So how does that...
So I decided to do it because a friend of mine's niece, actually, Becca Pizzi, she was the first American woman to do it.
Okay.
And so I had a connection to her because I knew her uncle. I had met her before. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is insane. I cannot believe she's doing that. That is crazy. And she did it around the first time. And when she ran it as the first American woman, she also broke the record for women at the time.
What?
And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, crazy, but amazing. And it's one of those things that kind of stayed in my memory bank until I had a few more marathons under my belt. And then I was like, oh, I could see how maybe you could do that. And then that just rolled around for a bit, solidified, and I decided I was going to do it. I decided about 2 years out before I did it. Like, I mentally committed to doing that. And I tested, so there's this group called Mainly Marathons that does back-to-back marathons in different states. So for marathon maniacs who want to get their 50 states. And they do one in the Gulf Coast, and at the time that I did it, we went Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas.
Oh, wow.
So 5 days, 5 states. And I did that the year before I did the World Marathon Challenge. That was my final testing ground to see if I thought I could do it. And after that, I was like, well, I survived. And what's another 2 more with, thousands more miles of travel?
Wow.
Yeah.
So how was that? So you run, then you get on a plane, and you go to the next continent. So what did that do to your body?
So the human body is just amazing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what it can take until you put it there. And one of the things that I was really concerned about was like jet lag and being in different time zones and whatever. But throughout that thing, because it was just the group of us, like you say, we ran on a continent, had a little rest time, got on a plane, slept, ate, got off the plane, ran, got back on the plane, slept, ran, blah, 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 over and over. And the time became completely irrelevant. Like, just completely irrelevant. And your body just, okay, we're on the plane. Now it's time to sleep. Wake up. I'm hungry. It's time to eat. Oh, we're landed. Now let's just get ready to run. It was just really insane how, like, your body just got into it. And even more because some of the times between races were shorter and some were longer.
Oh, okay.
We were supposed to start in Antarctica, but because of weather, they like to start in Antarctica because the weather's so unpredictable.
Okay.
So if you save it for last, you could get caught with bad weather and not be able to finish.
Wow.
So they tried to start in Antarctica, but the weather was so bad that we ended up having to start in South Africa. And so we started in South Africa, then went to Antarctica, and then back to South Africa to fly to Australia. So we had, I forget, it was like maybe 10, 12 hours between South Africa and Antarctica. And then from Antarctica to Australia, we had 30 hours because we were on a plane for 20-something hours from South Africa to Australia.
Wow.
So it was, it was just crazy. It's like when I say that out loud, right? Like, I was on a plane for 20-something hours.
And then I went running after I got off that plane.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. But it is just, like I said, it's just amazing how your body just kind of adapts. And once the start of the next marathon is always like a little bit like, oh my gosh. Ugh. But once you get going, your body's like, okay, we're going to do this again. And things just settle in and you just get into it and go. It's crazy.
That is just, wow. That's just amazing to me. So I have to know, what has been your favorite continent to run on?
I think... Gosh, that's such a tough question. Because going into it, I really thought Antarctica was going to be my favorite.
Okay.
Because it was so different. But we had such terrible weather and it was so miserable. So no. Maybe under different conditions, but definitely not how we ran it. I think I liked Brazil. It was super hot, super sunny, and that may be because it was one of the few that we ran during the day. So most often we were actually starting in the middle of the night and running. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Most of, like, Cape Town, we started like around sunset. Antarctica doesn't count because the sun doesn't set. That they don't count. I think a lot of people finished around sunrise in Australia. When we got, again, Dubai, a lot of people were finishing around sunrise. And then Madrid, that was like through the night. So when we got to Fortaleza, Brazil, we got there, I think the race started like right around noon, like high noon.
Wow.
It's 40 degrees Celsius, nearly 100 degrees. But it reminded me of home.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're like, this is running in Alabama.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing. It's like, oh, well, this feels familiar. But in all of the courses, they do a really great job. Almost all of them are along a waterfront. So you get to look at an ocean or a bay or whatever it is. And it was the same in Fortaleza. We were along the ocean. But I guess since it was daylight, I was able to actually see it. So, could appreciate it a little bit more.
Absolutely. You could take in the sights and just...
Yeah.
Wow. And again, in all, huge fan. Like, it's just amazing to me. Incredible. So, went from a marathoner, and now how long have you been doing ultras?
I think my first one was in 2020. So I did the World Marathon Challenge in February 2020, right at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, so much at the start that there were supposed to be more participants in that race, but the participants from China were not allowed to travel. They had already instituted the travel ban in China. So we got back from that I think we finished like mid-February. So that was done. And then I was starting to think about the next thing, and my next big goal was to qualify for Badwater 135. And to qualify for Badwater 135, you had to have, at the time, they've changed it now, but at the time you had to have at least 3 100-mile races. And the furthest I had done was 100K. Right after I finished the World Marathon Challenge, I started searching for a 100-miler to do. And I ended up doing, I know.
I'm just like, we're not even in the same league. I'm not even going to call myself a runner anymore next to Jessica. Like, you came off running 7 continents and you're like, okay, now I'm ready for an ultra.
Now it's time to do an ultra. So
of course. That's just the next logical.
What do you do next? I don't know. You've run around the world. What's next? I don't know. Yeah, so I signed up for Penhody here in North Alabama.
Okay.
Because Badwater 135 has preferred races. Like, you can run any 300s, and technically that qualified you. Mm-hmm. But they're kind of like, oh, well, if you do these preferred ones, we might get you in a little bit sooner.
Okay.
So I did Penhody in November of 2020. That was my first 100-miler, and it was terrible. Because I am not a trail runner.
Okay.
And I train on the island where it's flat and it's in the mountains. So perhaps not the wisest choice to enter the 100-mile realm. But I did, and I survived. It was, like I said, it was pretty not fun, but it didn't stop me, obviously.
Clearly.
Yeah. But after that, I got into I was still on my goal of qualifying for Badwater. Another preferred race in Badwater that's close to us is the Keys 100. So I signed up for that and did the Keys 100 for the first time in 2021. So that was much more my speed. Road, bridges, it's point to point from Key Largo to Key West.
Gotcha.
So lots of pretty water, heat, bridges.
All your favorite things.
Yeah, all my things. So it was much more my style. Definitely.
So that's just wild to me. So you got your 3 100s.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I got my 3 100s in because I went back to Glutton for Punishment, went back to Penhody in 2021. Because I'm the kind of person who I race against myself primarily, and I had really wanted it to go sub 24 hours in Penhody. And I ran like 25 the first year. So I was like, okay, we got to go back and get under 24, don't we? Yes, it was miserable, but don't we need to go back? So anyway, I went to Pinhoti again, got sub 24, like 23:50 something or whatever. I didn't have a big buffer there, but I made it.
Whoa. Oh.
So at that point, I technically had my 3 100 races.
Okay.
So I guess that would be Badwater application period is usually January, February, early in the year. So I applied for Badwater 2022.
Okay.
And was not accepted. So
even though you did their preferred races.
Yeah, they have their application thing is a big deal.
Okay.
They only take 100 runners every year, and they probably have 400 or 500 applicants.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
Yeah, and in 2022, they were still rolling over people from the pandemic. So
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I was like, okay, we'll do some more. What can it hurt? I had decided I was not going back to Pinhoti. The sub 24 was enough. I was miserable at about mile 30 or 40 of that race. I came up on my crew and I said, I do not want to be here anymore.
Oh.
It was like the look of panic in crew face. But I was like, don't worry, I'm not quitting. I'm just telling you, I really don't want to be out here. But I've already determined I'm going to be. So we're just going to get through it. So I then no Pinhoti. I did the Daytona 100 in December of last year, December of 2022.
Okay.
Again, another point-to-point road course, my style yet again. I was the first female in that, second overall, so that was a fantastic run. The course was great, and the temperature was like perfect because with December temperatures here, it's hit or miss,
yes.
right? But the morning was pretty cool, so it got a good 3 or 4 hours before it got over 70, and so it was really nice. So I applied, I missed a race because I did Keys in 2020. I did the Keys 100 again in 2022. But then I applied for Badwater again in this year, and I got in.
Look at that!
Yes! I will be going to Badwater 135 in July.
Wow. How does that feel?
It is, it's exciting and nerve-wracking and all of those things because it's 35 miles further than I've ever run.
Okay.
It's in the middle of the hottest place on earth, and it has a lot of elevation. There's some really steep climbs.
And where's it located at?
So it starts in Death Valley, and it starts in Badwater Basin, goes through Death Valley, and then up Mount Whitney to Whitney Portal. So
all the things that you don't like.
It's still on a road. It is on a road, so I have that going for me, and it's hot. So
That's true.
Got a couple different kind of heat, desert heat, which I've not done before. Yeah, but I'm excited. I'm really excited about it. The thing about it that I didn't really realize when I was looking into getting into it and wanting to get into it is the absolute immense amount of logistics for running the race, because the race director and everybody who runs the event, they give you so much excellent advice, but there's also a lot of rules and restrictions to keep everybody safe and all of that sort of stuff. So your crew is limited to 4 people, and which is fine. But then which 4 people, and what do I want in those 4 people? Do I need someone who can help pace me? Do I want somebody who has medical training in case something happens? Do you want this? Do you want that? And trying to figure out who the best people are. And of course, personalities, you got to make sure that's all going to work. And then just the logistics, because it's the first race that I've done that's this far from home. Or the first ultra I've done.
I was going to say, but besides the continent.
Yeah, the first ultra I've done this far from home.
Gotcha.
Making sure I have all the gear and getting it there and all of that kind of stuff. So it's just an insane amount of logistics because there's required gear for the runners, required gear for the crew, required this and
wow.
Yeah, so it's a lot. It's a lot. So I'm a bit of a planner, so I think I've already got most things in place. We're like 4.5 weeks away now.
Wow. I'm so excited for you. I cannot wait. First of all, you do such a good job on your social media.
Thank you.
I loved reading your experience with Key West this past time because you put it out there. And it's like you said, you were like, when you were talking about the faces of your pit crew, they were like, we don't know what to, but then the fact that you have such a great support system.
Oh, yeah.
That they were like, we know what Jessica needs, and we're going to be there, and we're going to see you to the finish.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that. Like, I was getting teary-eyed reading that because I don't have that experience. I know what it's like to have your people at your race, at the finish line, and cheering you on, and having friends come back and run with you, and it's about community. And while you're doing this alone, you have a community that's backing you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your finish is their finish.
Absolutely. And that's so true with ultras in particular, because the crew is critical, absolutely critical. Like, there's no way I could do what I've done without them.
Yeah.
They're helping me and supporting me, and we joke that it's their job to keep me from dying, but it's...
You're like, but no, really.
But no, really. But it's also, they do a great job of keeping me from quitting, because sometimes you can get in your own head, and it's 100%. Easy to, this hurts, I want to stop. And that's really easy to say a lot in an ultra. And so just, having people there, even if they don't need to do anything actively, just having them there and knowing that they've put themselves out here to help me. So I also don't want to disappoint them by just stopping because this isn't fun anymore. I mean, I signed up for it, I committed to it. Need to see it through to the finish.
Oh, amazing. Oh my goodness. What are some lessons that you've learned from running?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. But I think you talked about a little bit already about running community, and I think that's one of my favorite things about the running, and especially, so I recently did a few marathons, which I hadn't done in a couple of years, and marathon running is great, and there is a great community of any distance of runners.
Sure, 100%.
But when you step up to the ultra runners, it's a whole nother level of community, because there are, I think, so many more struggles, and everybody really is out there, and this is true of all running, but everybody's out there for their own reasons, right? Like, some people are competitive, they're trying to win. Some people are out there in memory of somebody, or because they've overcome something, or whatever. And I think that really shines in ultras, because people are willing to help each other out, and you're going at an easier pace for most of an ultra, so you can spend some time chatting with more people than you would sometimes. I spent a good, I don't know, time blurs when you're doing that, but when we were running the Keys, I was running with a lady from Colorado for, I don't know, probably close to an hour, and we were just chatting a little bit, and it's just, everybody has their goals, and why are you here, and what's your plan, and what are you trying to do? So I don't know that's really a lesson, other than I would say it still gives me hope there's good people out there, because you see it. We're not necessarily as much in society with all the crazy things going on day in, day out.
Oh, that's so good. It's one of the things that I think I love about running, is what you said, is like the people you get to know, because everyone has a story as to why, like you said, why they're out there. And I've gotten to meet people on races that I met somebody at Mississippi. We just did Farm to Fork, and she's from Mobile. And I was like, what are the odds? And so, like, her boyfriend was out on the bike ride, and like she knew all the same people we knew, and I'm like, this is so funny. And so Megan from Port City Pacers, we were running together, and so she was like, you should come join us. And she was talking about all the different running groups we had.
Oh, that's cool.
But we met her at a different race in a different state.
Yeah.
And so I love that you've met other people, and it's like amazing friendship. It's like you said, like you're going through the trenches together.
Yeah.
And no one can really understand what you're going through unless you're doing it together. And I love that.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's great.
That's so good. What is your favorite race and why?
So this is such a tough one, but right now I want to say the Keys 100. And that may be because I just came from there, and I may have already forgotten how terrible bits and pieces of it were. But I think it has all the things that I like we were talking about earlier. It has good views, it has the bridges, it has the heat, it's on a road. So I think that's one of my favorites. And I will say that as I've been doing this, the 100-mile distance has become like my favorite distance, which is a crazy thing to say, I know.
Yeah, my jaw just dropped at that. Okay.
Who says that?
Who says that? You and Barry Roberts, just, okay. That's all I gotta say. Okay. Okay, I have to know this. What is your pre-race routine?
So it's really, I love this question because I used to have a stock answer that I would tell you. This is what I would do. Before I started running ultras, when I was really focused on marathons, I had a day before, night before. It was rest as much as possible. In the evening, I had to have lasagna. Oh, not any other kind of pasta. Lasagna.
Okay.
We were on a quest wherever we were. Night before a race, we had to have lasagna.
Okay.
In the morning, I would have half of a bagel. I had my gels. I had whatever. When I started doing ultras, like the nutrition turns into a whole different game, right? Because you're not trying to get through this short distance. You're trying to get through a day of nutrition. And I think as I started doing the ultras, I learned what my body could handle and not handle. So when I was doing marathons, I was afraid to experiment with food too much. This worked, I'm going to stick with it. We're not changing. So now I don't really have, as far as what I eat, I still try to not do a lot of activity the day before, right? Rest everything. I still try to eat a carb heavy pretty much for the day before the race. But I'm not that picky anymore about what I eat. And even the morning before, like sometimes it'll be a bagel, sometimes it'll be, I don't know, whatever else is laying around. Who knows? Because when you running ultras, at least like 100 milers, you don't have to. I have a friend who runs 100 milers on nothing but goos, and I just can't.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I
can't. I just can't. But most of the times you're trying to find like real food that can sustain you. So I did a lot of work early on trying to train my gut, as they say, where I'm trying to eat different things while I'm running and in the heat to get used to it. And I've built up a little bit of a tolerance, so my routine is not so routine anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. It's weird.
Okay, but do you still have lasagna the night before?
I don't.
No? Okay.
Because I've gone, well, while we're talking about food, who doesn't like talking about food? While I'm leading up to a big ultra, I find that I feel better in my training if I don't eat meat. Like, I don't call myself a vegetarian because like after races, I go back to it. But maybe a month to 6 weeks before, I usually will cut out everything but seafood, primarily. Okay. It's hard to go out and find a lasagna that is meatless. Most restaurants have the meat sauce in the lasagnas. Otherwise, I probably would if I could find a meat-free one. It's not off the table.
I love that. I'll tell you, it's been so much fun asking this question because I've learned from, like with Barry and Jennifer, like other runners, things that, like you said, there's some people that they're so set in their routine, but then you find out there's something else, and then it's okay to experiment. And when you do, you're like, oh, wow, like that actually worked, and I feel better, and all of this. And now I do applesauce packets instead of a gel, and I'm just like, who would have thought applesauce packet, you know?
I've used those in ultras too. They're great.
But I'm telling you, it's something that I learned from you crazy people. From marathon, I'm like, okay, all right, if that's what we do, okay. Post-race routine, what does that look like?
Post-race routine. So immediately post-race or like days post-race?
You just tell me whatever you want to do.
So usually it is a lot of trying to relax, but I never sleep really well the first night or two after an event. But I will say this kind of also goes into a recovery question. So especially with the ultras, I find that the day after, as much moving around as I can do. I'm not running, I'm not going out for a run, but trying to walk around a bit, doing some stretches. This year in Key West, we were staying at a place with a nice pool, and I got in the pool and just moved around some, and I feel like that really helps with the recovery. So the first day is usually pretty low key, but I just try to rest, nap if I can, eat to replenish everything, and move just because it's so easy to just sit down and once you get relaxed, oh yeah, I'm just going to lay here. Yeah. Getting up and moving in that first few minutes is rough, but the more you do it, the better things like recover for the long term. Thankfully, this year after the Keys, I didn't need it, but after most ultras, there's some sort of foot care because there's almost an inevitable blister or hot spot or something like that. But yeah, recovering and eating.
Jessica, we'd be my new best friend because I just right there with you. And I'm not running an ultra, but yeah, I'm going to be eating and recovering.
Yeah, it's important.
It's important. Yes. What is your favorite running item?
My favorite running item is probably my Boco brand running hats.
Oh, okay.
I have a funny story about it. Penhody, the first year when I was miserable doing my first 100 miler, I hadn't been running in hats that long. It took me a while to come around to running in hats.
Okay.
But I had my Boco hat that I normally ran in, and somewhere during the time the Penhody race, it started raining. And so we got wet, and of course my hat's wet, and I'm wet, and whatever. And when I got to one of the crew stops, my husband asked me if I wanted to take off my hat. And I said, no, I don't want to take off my hat. And he's like, all right. So he sees me again, and at this point it's night. And he was like, do you want to take your hat off now? And I was like, no, I'm not taking my hat off. And I don't know why, but somewhere in that time during that run, me and my hat bonded. Or I guess I bonded with my hat.
We were one.
I doubt it really bonded with me, but I don't know. But after that, I don't know. I'd already enjoyed running in them, and I wouldn't part with my hat during that race. I don't know why. It was a completely irrational thing, especially at night because you have your headlamp on.
Sure.
It doesn't really help to have a hat on at all. But I ran the whole race with that hat, and I have a few different styles of Boco hats now that I wear, but go-to piece of gear.
I love that. This is my hat. We are one. We're finishing this race together.
My husband looked at me like I was crazy. Like, why don't you want... I was like, I don't know, but no, you're not taking my hat.
Listen, the hat's gotten me through some things, okay? It's gotten me through some moments.
Exactly.
Okay, so I know you're going to want to answer this with... So what are your favorite road shoes and what are your favorite trail shoes?
Well, since I don't like running trails...
Okay.
I do have an answer for that, though. Oh, gosh, no, I don't have an answer for it. I run in Ultras.
Okay.
Superiors, that's the name of them.
Okay.
Ultra Superiors, they're their lightweight trail shoe. Really like them. I ran Antarctica in them, actually, because they're grippy in the snow.
Sure, yeah.
But they don't get a lot of use. I have 4 pairs that I've had for 5 years now.
You're a good-looking trail shoe, but I don't want to take your...
You can stay over there. You can stay in the closet. It's fine. Road shoes, like I said, I wear Ultras.
Okay.
My most recent favorite have been their Riveras. I find them to be a good all-around shoe. They are fairly lightweight, have a decent amount of cushioning. I have recently started using their Vanish Carbon, which is their plated shoe. I haven't run in it a whole lot, but I really like it so far. So, yeah, I would say Riveras are my big workhorse go-to shoe right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How many pairs of shoes do you have, Jessica?
I am not sure.
She's Allison, that question's not on here.
If you had asked in advance, maybe I could have counted. Let's see. I would say I probably have at least 12 at the house on Dauphin Island, and then we also have a house in Indiana. I would say I probably have at least 8 pairs there of road shoes alone.
Oh, okay. We're not counting the trail shoes.
We're not counting the trail shoes. Yeah,
they know their place.
Yeah, I can't even see them. They're out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, probably something like that, because there's some pairs that, I like to rotate them. I'm really terrible, like everybody. You need to change them after so many miles. I don't record that. I don't enter them into Strava and keep up with how many. I realize that maybe I should, quote unquote, but anyway, I don't. And once I realize that I've seen that pair for a really long time, and I look at the bottoms and I'm like, oh man, maybe I should get rid of these. Nah, just one more run in them. They'll be fine. So I have quite a few.
You're like, I go until like they're done. There's nothing more. Do you have a favorite running fuel?
So, not really. This past race in the Keys, I tried a new fueling strategy, as you probably read.
Which I loved. I loved reading that about I was like, yes. Kudos to your pit crew for realizing like her hydration's off, her electrolytes are off. We've got to do something.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I was like,
So I liked it. The past ultras I've done, my primary hydration electrolyte has been Gatorade Endurance. And I know Gatorade doesn't sit well with a lot of people, but I've been able to handle it pretty well. And then as far as foods, you're
like, whatever comes up.
I tend to not like to eat. So my crew is absolutely fantastic because I will pack like enough food to feed like a small army of like 50 to 100 people. And of things that I'm not going to eat while I'm running. But my crew is fantastic because they'll take a few different options, and each time they see me, they'll just like display, here, do you want to try one of these variety of things? So I've gone through some races like the fruit snacks, like Welch's fruit snacks.
Okay.
Some races, the naked juice mix things. I've had those. I'm trying to think what else has worked. There's been a few races where something just clicks and I want it over and over. Most races, I'm like, okay, I'll have that a couple of times. Don't want that anymore. But this past Keys, I switched to trying Hammer Nutrition because their liquid products actually have protein and fat in them. So you don't, in theory, you don't need as much real food to get the nutrition out of it. So I thought that seemed like a good thing, and I tried it in training runs, and it sits in my stomach so well. Like, I can't even tell that it's there, you know? So there's none of that, like, even with the Gatorade Endurance, even though I can tolerate it well, you can feel that it's there. So in theory, I'm liking the Hammer Nutrition products so far, as long as we can figure out the right mixture and everything. Because towards the end, we figured it out, and I finished that race feeling really good.
Yeah.
Like, never felt under nutrients at all.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's incredible. Man. What has been your favorite running memory?
So I'll go back. Gosh, there's so many. But the one that sticks out the most is going back to the World Marathon Challenge. After I finished the race in Madrid, Spain, it was on a Formula One track. And my husband went with me for the World Marathon Challenge.
Oh,
so, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so
nice.
That's a key point to this story. After everybody finished each of their races, the race director would give you your medal as you crossed the finish line. The race before that, I really got down on myself because I was not doing as well as I was wanting to do in the event. And I kind of saw that my overall goal for the event wasn't really, probably no longer really attainable. And so we got to Madrid, and I needed to run faster than I did to keep my goal in sight. And so it was a tough mental race for me from that perspective, because it was the one where I had to let go of what I was hoping to do.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like a positive memory, but when I crossed the finish line, the race director gave the medal to my husband, and he put it over my neck, and there is a fantastic picture of after he put it over my neck, he bent down and kissed me on the forehead. There's a fantastic picture of that. It's
of your biggest fan being there.
Yeah. So yes, I think that's it.
That is so stinking sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
How did that feel in that moment?
Oh, it was all the emotions.
Yeah.
Because, I was disappointed, but he was there, and it was supportive and so positive and not, and just all the things all at once.
That's so good. Oh, thanks for sharing that memory. That's so sweet. What are your running jams? Do you listen to music when you run?
Not all the time.
Okay.
And I would say not most of the time. But sometimes, especially during the longer training runs or the ultras, when I get because you're always going to have ups and downs, right?
Sure.
And so usually, at least for a while during a race, when I get in a little downswing, I'll get my headphones and listen to some stuff. Primarily 90s, like rap rock, like we've got...
Really? Okay.
Eminem.
I was not expecting that at all. I'm not going to lie.
Eminem,
Okay.
Kid Rock, things along those lines. Some harder classic rock usually mixed in there somewhere, but
Okay.
Beastie Boys.
Wow. Oh, man. Okay, so it's after you've crossed the finish line. What is, like, the food you want to eat? You're like, take me to this restaurant. I want this.
So that usually doesn't hit until the next day.
Okay.
But it's usually some sort of meat, like a burger or a steak, or in Key West, there's a lot of really good, like, Cuban, like, yeah, but I'm usually craving some sort of meat heavy.
Because you've given it up. And
Yeah.
you're like, I want it now.
And plus the protein to, like,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So usually something like that is my, like, next day. Oh my gosh, that's what I want to have.
Wow. Favorite recovery tool?
That's hard to narrow down, isn't it? I have some compression tights.
Okay.
That may be my favorite, just because they're easy to use. You can go anywhere with them, and they seem to work really well. I used them in the World Marathon Challenge. After we get back on the plane, I'd change into these compression tights and wear them for a few hours.
Oh, really? What's the brand?
Zinsa.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know they made tights.
I don't know if they do anymore.
Okay.
I found them years ago and I love them, and I bought 5 pair of them.
Wow.
Yeah. So I really enjoy those. I have some of the air compression leg things, and those are okay. But, they're cumbersome. They take time, and you can put on the recovery tights and go do whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, that's probably my one favorite thing.
It's amazing. Cross-training activity?
I should do more. That's
It's just hard to believe. Like, okay.
So I actually paid a PT guy to do an assessment of me and assess my strengths and weaknesses, and he has given me an exercise program specifically because I want to strengthen going into Badwater. And again, I should do it more. I'm supposed to do it like 3 or 4 times a week, and let's just say I haven't done that.
I also like how you preface, I paid a guy to do this.
I know, right? Thinking that would help motivate me. Clearly that did not. But it's based on mostly body weight, and we use resistance bands and all that kind of stuff. But kind of the simple, small muscle building for like balance and strength and that kind of stuff. Because I do know that I can tell, definitely, when I don't do it long enough. Those niggles start to show up, and then I go to the chiropractor and he fixes me, and then I'm like, no, I promise I'll do my exercises. Which lasts for another however long. But yeah, so as far as like true like cross-training activities, I don't really do much.
Got it. What has been your absolute worst race that you'd be like, I'll never do it again?
Pinhoti.
Okay. You didn't even need to think about that one. You were like...
No, when I said I was done at like mile 30 or 40, and I crossed the finish line, and both of my crew were like, you're not doing this again, are you? I was like, no. They're like, we're not going to let you change your mind. We're going to remind you of how much you hated this. Okay, that's fair.
Again, kudos to the pit crew for holding you accountable and being like, nah, Jessica, no, let's remember, nah.
And I will say, it's not because it's a bad race. It's because I am not a trail person. If I moved somewhere where I could train on trails, I would not feel that way about that race anymore.
Okay.
But I am not a trail person. I cannot go downhill quickly. I stubbed my toes at least 3,000 times on rocks, and that hurts a lot.
Yeah.
So I was done with it.
You're like, if I stub my toe one more time.
I stubbed my toe once, and it made me almost fall, and I dropped my potato chips, and I was very upset. It's just not a good thing.
I can just imagine you going, there goes my potato chips.
It was not fun.
Any advice that you would give to anyone that's wanting to start or coming back from an injury, whether it's running, walking? They say, Jessica, what is a piece of advice you'd give?
For coming back from an injury, 2 things. Build slowly and do your cross training. I say that laughingly, but seriously, those, like, when you're coming back from an injury, strengthening whatever caused the injury is
100%.
absolutely key. And I don't know, if I coach some, and I've coached a couple of people who've coming back from injuries, and they get irritated with me because I don't let them do much.
Sure.
But I've successfully gotten them back from injury to where they wanted to be. So it's a very frustrating process coming back from injury and building back into where you want to be, because you know where you were, and it's like so miserable to do not even most of that.
Sure.
You want to push through, but really taking it easy coming back from injury is the best piece of advice I can give.
Let's say somebody wants to start. They're intimidated. What would you say?
1 step at a time. I've also coached people who really haven't run at all. I coached one guy from, I joked, couch to 50K.
Oh, okay. Why not?
Yeah, why
when you
not?
have Coach Jessica, that just makes perfect sense.
But again, it's small things, and I know one of the hard things about getting into it is getting disappointed, right? I can't do this or I can't do that. I want to be here and I can't get there, and I feel like it's a lot just to do this. How am I ever going to get to this point that I want to be? And so again, taking it slow, taking it 1 step at a time, and building slowly and building wisely.
Ooh, that's good.
Because a lot of people also, they want to jump into it, and they jump too far too quickly, and they get sore, and then they can't do anything for a few days. And it's easier to go less, where you're not going to be sore to the point that you can't do anything for a few days.
Yeah.
And to alternate that. And especially if somebody who wants to start running, don't be afraid to walk. That's how you get started.
100%, yeah.
You know, mix in some of the walking with the running, and it'll build. And I tell people, if you have patience, you'll be where you want to be before you really realize it. It doesn't take that long in the grand scheme of things. It feels like it day by day, but in the big picture, it's really not that long to make good progress.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. So we know you have a big goal coming up next month. Have you already thought about what's next? Any other big goals that you have?
So yes and no. So this has been rolling around in my head for a while. I kind of don't. So with my win at the Keys 100, I have an automatic spot in Badwater 2024.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there's that. But I really don't know. I'm only signed up for one race after Badwater this year. And I honestly don't even know if I'm going to do it. I signed up because a friend of mine said I should do it with him. So I was like, oh, sure, why not? But
running friends are the worst. Terrible influences.
I know, right? But yeah, I'm not really sure. One thing that keeps rolling around in the back of my head that I may do, I'm not committed to it yet, is going back to the World Marathon Challenge in 2025, I think is the next time he's planning on having it, and trying to get in shape to go after the record. But
wow,
I've been out of marathon shape for so long. The marathons that I did a few months ago were a shock to my system.
Okay.
Because the difference in speed.
Sure.
And I've lost a lot of that. I know it sounds funny. Marathon speed from running 100 miles. So that's something that's in my head, but I would need to do a lot more marathons in the next little bit to be confident that I could do it well. So
I'm sorry, the fact that you're even thinking about going back is just wow. Okay.
It was fun.
Is your husband like, I'm going to go back with you this time again?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mantra, do you have one, like when it gets bad?
I don't.
Okay.
I used to. No, I wouldn't say I used to. I tried to have one at some point.
Okay.
And nothing ever really stuck with me. I just do some self-talk sometimes, or self-yelling at motivation sort of things. But no, I don't have a particular mantra that gets me through.
Suck it up, Jessica, let's go! I can just imagine. You've already said your favorite length to run is 100 miles. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when you're not running, Jessica, what do you like to do?
When I'm not running and not working, which isn't much of my life. I've mentioned my husband a couple times. Obviously, I'm married. We have a couple of dogs and like spending time with them. When we're here in the South on the island, we have a pool, so a lot of just chilling out by the pool, playing with the dogs. As I mentioned, we have a place in Indiana as well, and we have some woods up there, and so that's really my favorite, is being up there and strolling around the woods and letting the dogs run around and do their thing and sniff everything and chase deer and whatever else that's the relaxing part of life that I really enjoy.
So when you're in Indiana, you're like, trail shoes, no, I'm not going in the woods at all for that.
Nope.
No.
Okay.
Still no. Okay. I was trying to hype up the trail shoes here. I was like, let's go.
Now, I do have a pair of Ultra Lone Peaks that I wear when I walk through my woods. I don't run, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hey. Any final words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom, I don't know. But I will say that people who are running or thinking about running, it really is just, you find your own reason and you do it and enjoy it. And don't worry about what other people think, and don't judge yourself against other people and what they're doing or what their goals are. It's one of the few sports in the world, if not the only, that people of all levels of achievement in the sport can share the same track, the same road, the same course. Think about if you run the Chicago Marathon or the New York City Marathon, any of those big city marathons, you have some of the best marathoners in the world literally running the exact same course as you at the same time on the same day. And that's just, I think that just shows that whole breadth of inclusivity of the running community. So I guess my words are, don't lose sight of that. If you're into running or walking or whatever it is, just being out there, enjoy it because you enjoy it, and don't let others take away from it by judging yourself against them.
I love that. Oh, so good. Jessica, it has been such a pleasure. I'm telling you, you already knew this, but I'm like such a big fangirl, and now, of course, even more. And be cheering for you in July, but I cannot tell you how much this means to me. Be able to sit down and just glean from you, and just to be excited for you, and to know like we're in the same running community, and you're obviously on a whole different level, but again, just that thread that puts us together. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Oh, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Wow, guys, what a run story. And thank you so much, Jessica, for sharing that, and your passion for running and the passion for the community that you have and of supporters that you have. Your pit crew sounds amazing. I think we should just have a big pit crew party and just celebrate when you come back in July. Like, that's just so exciting for you. And again, just thank you for what you're doing for the community. You're making it better, and just your heart that you have. And it's just absolutely beautiful. And I just thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Guys, as always, huge shout out to Mars Hill Church for allowing us to have a safe place to sit and chat. And they believe in Run Your Story and our mission. And we are just so grateful to have them and to have the safe place to be able to share our stories. And as always, Gilliard Tech Services, they make Run Your Story possible through editing and making the website look great. And we are just so grateful for them, which includes Greg Gilliard himself. And he also does tutoring and having a camp come up. He also can build that website for you or freshen up that existing one. He is all things tech, and so he does such a fabulous job, and he makes Run Your Story possible. And so just so grateful for him. Huge shout out to Gray. Another huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. Guys, it takes a tribe to make this podcast possible, and so thankful for our Patreon supporters because they do such an amazing job to keep us going, and so thankful for them and their support and all that they do for Run Your Story. Guys, you can also become a Patreon supporter. You can go to Patreon, look us up, click on that. You get some cool swag, some cool insights from us. Also like, comment, and share us. We want to get your stories out there. Everyone share your stories because they're so encouraging, and we're all in different seasons and we need one another. We need that encouragement. And as Jessica said, you never know whose story is out there when you're running, and it's absolutely beautiful that we get to know one another and share. I appreciate her saying that. And our sponsor of the month, thank you so much, Rooted and Grounded. You guys are the best. Caroline, love you guys. And so excited to be able to partner with you guys this month, and just really appreciate you and what you do, providing me caffeinated as always. Again, so thankful that you want to share your stories with us, and truly, truly an honor. And again, thank you, Jessica. You know, your story has become a part of my story. And so as we hit the pavement together, it becomes a part of our story. And so guys, get out there, hit the pavement, and run your story, because every story needs to be heard.